Thanks for putting the Pam behind you.
Oh my God.
So I usually start by asking people their first time on the podcast how they got the job, but you were there from the very beginning.
Yeah, been working with Adam for a very long time, and when he pitched this and sold it to FX, he was kind enough to bring us on first thing.
Um, so you're the executive producer, but also, if you had to guess, how many characters over the 14 seasons randomly did you voice?
Um, I know the answer if it's did I voice the character well. I know that. How many characters did I voice? I would say there's like 120 episodes or so. I probably got to have 100 characters, but all
Wow.
those characters have 3 lines or
Mm,
something like that.
some grunting.
Yeah.
Um, were you ever a model for any characters? I feel like I would see you on occasion.
I was a model, but not for any characters. People always ask me, why do you work in cartoons when you look like this? It's tough. I know. But know that there is a drawing of me, like originally when we put out the packet for who the people are that are making the show,
Hmm.
Adam and I had ourselves archerized.
Oh yeah.
And for some reason, maybe this was in Frisky Dingo, but I put one of those halo nuts and bolts things on my head that
Hmm.
had straight in my neck. I can't remember if that was part of Frisky or this, but then had that neck bolt thing sipping a glass of brown juice, we'll call it.
Brown
Which
juice.
is weird because I'm not a big drinker.
You'll be happy to find out that in all the episodes we've recorded, we've never talked about how you aren't a big fan of drinking brown juice. So
Oh,
don't worry about it. It doesn't come up. It doesn't come up often at all. So don't worry about
makes
it.
sense.
One of the other things that's come up a few times is what a trickster you are.
Yes,
Um,
I'm bored easily.
this was like such a little one that I oftentimes don't think about it when I'm telling stories about you being a trickster, but it's just so classic. We were at lunch. I think you were there, Casey, and we had gone to whatever that place was across from Alon's Bakery. It's like a brew dog or something.
Oh,
The family dog.
Family dog.
And we were leaving the restaurant, and you had driven, I think, expressly to do the thing that I'm about to explain.
Oh, did
And
I leave somebody?
No, but you did do that fucking thing that everybody's big brother does, where every time I tried to get into the car, you would scoot up, and I was just like, God damn it. Because it's never going to stop,
Yeah.
and you don't know when it's going to stop, and you're just standing in the parking lot like an asshole.
Again, sounds so clever. Sounds just like me. The smarter the joke, usually, the more likely it's me. Yeah, I am quite the trickster, like Loki's dumber brother, Dopey.
Was there,
Really
is there
better
a,
in my head.
is there a particularly intricate one that you pulled during the Archer years that you remember?
Some of my favorite ones were actually to you, hiding in your voiceover booth for the first 30 minutes of your session, only to jump out from behind you after you've been going. Like, you're on like page 9, and I
Yeah.
am hidden behind the curtain. And you just till you got comfortable, and then I just jumped out and not grabbed you. Hold on, no touching, no touching. But I grabbed you, and that was a really good one. There was another good one during COVID. Do you remember that one?
Oh yeah, we actually have already told that one on the podcast where you barfed in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it was so scary.
I'm trying to turn my thing off. It can't get off. Sorry.
Yeah, it can't keep happening, Matt.
I know.
You've already ruined the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, the one in the booth, because people, we were in a particularly big booth. It was one of the bigger booths, but people might not realize how like sweaty and hot being in the booth can get.
That's
Um,
just you.
I am a
You're in there
sweaty
and you're
person.
like, whoa.
In there. It's two people.
Really, you'd really work up a sweat. Everybody else came out going, well, wasn't that lovely? It was
Not
really
me.
lovely.
Not this guy. But yeah, I remember that one quite well. I was very terrified. And then I think it was like maybe the very last recording session I did. I was walking into the studio and I was walking down a hallway and you were hiding behind a wall and jumped out and scared me so badly. I was so pissed off.
I love hearing all these stories because it's just like, did I ever work? It's like I was just comic relief for everybody around. And the comedy, it wouldn't have been funny if like a non-boss character did it. Like if it
Right.
was like the illustrator number 17 or intern, whatever, everybody would just be like, that's terrible. Go home. Like, you get a lot of leeway when you're the boss and you order people around. People are like, ha, 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 that's so funny. Ha, ha, ha. It's a lot of fake and uncomfortable laughs, but that's
Oh
the
boy.
area with which in I live.
I think it was Casey or maybe Christian that mentioned in another episode that you hate meetings unless they're about planning an elaborate prank and then you can meet all day about it.
Yes, that's part. There was a thing that when we started tweeting and stuff and social media that I hated, and Casey was having meetings with people about what was going to go up on the Twitter feeds and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I would find out on a schedule that'd be like meeting 9:30 Twitter, and I would go, that meeting's canceled. No, don't do that. And then so Casey started calling things R&D meetings, and then I'd be like, R&D, okay. He just hit it from me.
I remember when we first started doing the Twitter feeds and you guys had reached out to me and asked me to write the Pam Twitter feed. And I was like so nervous about it because I was like, I can't write in this character's voice. Like it's so well written and it's going to be really hard. And so I sat down and finally like crafted, because you were like, do a test, send us like, 10. So I crafted like 10 tweets and sent them to you guys. And you were like, Amber, these are all entirely too dirty. And I was like, what?
Here's some more pee to drink. You're like, Amber, are you okay?
I'm Amber Nash, the voice of your favorite HR nightmare, Pam Poovey. We're doing an Archer rewatch podcast because I don't have a job anymore. This season, each episode is hosted by me and a guest co-host from the main cast. We will be breaking down fan and cast favorite episodes out of order, so get used to it. Welcome to Rephrasing. Okay, so the episode that you decided to cover is Mission Difficult. I will read the Archer Wiki synopsis and then we'll talk about it. And my first question to you will be why you chose this episode. So, Mission Difficult is the season finale for season 12 of Archer, being the 8th episode of the season and the 126th episode overall. Archer is trapped inside IAA headquarters and Barry is trapped inside Other Barry.
Yes. I picked that episode because I just wanted an excuse to talk about Jessica Walter.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes of this episode it will be interesting to people who just like behind the scenes information.
Totally.
But the number 1 through 99 reasons is just an excuse to talk about Jessica Walter, who I miss dearly, and I think everybody else that works on that show feels the same way.
Yeah, she was so lovely and so generous with her time and knew about everybody's lives. Like, it was, I think, a Comic-Con in New York, and we were on a bus, and she was like, Amber, how's Carol, my dog? And I was like, the fact that she knows my dog's name is like the most precious thing ever. She was just such a class act, man.
I liked her for that, but I also liked her because she had some attitude. She was spunky, man. She will let you know when things weren't going the way she liked it, and I dug it. I was here for it. Like whenever we were somewhere in a public place for Archer, I made a point that I was like by her side, like at all times. Like, what do you need? She's a star, and from a different era, and I wanted to make sure that she was taken care of, and I wanted to make sure that any thought that she had, I would try my best to accommodate.
Mm-hmm.
But she was, and I mean this in the absolute best possible way, she was a dame. Like, she had a commanding presence. She had great stories, and she knew what she was worth. and she let you know it.
Yeah.
And she was right, and she was fucking good at stuff. She's just an original human.
Yeah.
And she really affected me greatly in my personal life, in my life, and I missed her dearly. Adam said something at her funeral. I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like she was the planet to which we all orbited around.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was star. I can't remember. Whatever it was, like all things Adam, it was beautifully said and and true. So many stories about Jessica, but. And the story has been told before, but my favorite story about her was, I believe we're doing press for season 11.
Okay.
We were out at Comic-Con, and we were about to be on live TV Guide television, like some sort of like stand-up in the back. I think it was TV Guide. Casey, feel free to jump in.
It was either a TV Guide or Entertainment Weekly. It was one.
Yeah, but it had like a little small set, and each group of people would go up there and talk to the host for 10 minutes about their upcoming season or whatever it was. So we're all waiting in the wings. We're next up in line. And they were talking to, and I always butcher his name, Henry Cavill, Henry Cavill. Which one?
Cavill, I think is correct.
Cavill. That they were up there talking about, I believe, Witcher season 1.
Yeah.
They're up there talking about Witcher season 1. I'm standing there backstage, and again, I'm usually shadowing Jessica wherever she is. And so I'm standing right next to her, and Aisha's right there as well. And so we're watching Henry talk to the host, and Jessica just comes up between us and goes, "Who is that?" and it was obvious that like she was just smitten with Henry, and Aisha goes, "Oh, Henry," and like all things, Aisha kind of knows everybody.
Yeah.
And she's like, "I know Henry. Would you like to meet him?" And Jessica's like, "Oh yes," and we've been around her for 13 years. Never something like this never ever happened. So
yeah,
Henry comes off stage. Aisha grabs him, introduces him to Jessica, and immediately, in a very tender way, she like kind of puts both arms on his bicep, you know? And she's talking. So this is how she talks. She's in close, and she's got both her hands on it. She's like, "I'd like to play your mother."
Oh!
And Henry's just starting to blush. And he's like, and she's just looking up at him like she's going to devour him.
Yes, I remember that too. It was so fantastic.
We all loved how she was just so, she didn't care.
Yeah.
She was going to throw it out there, and it was wonderful.
In contrast, the other great story was, and we've talked about this as well, how there's the regular media, and then there's the bloggers and people who run the website. And one year, a guy was dressed up in a full Predator outfit. And when Jessica saw him, she just goes, "No."
No. She just wouldn't sit down at his table. No. And I was like, yeah.
That's the part of her personality that I don't think gets talked about enough. She knew what she liked. She knew what she didn't like. She wasn't walking into that. And she'll tell you right then. And I so respected that, the clarity always had with Jessica. And you knew exactly what she wanted and what she didn't want. And it was
so true. Wonderful. So true. Yeah. Oh, man. What a dame. So we can just talk through the episode if you'd like, but anytime you have a story, feel free.
Before the episode starts, I wanted to talk about an overall thing about this episode. Because it was probably the most difficult episode of television I've ever made. It was extremely, extremely difficult for several reasons. One, the season started off with 8 episodes. Casey and the head writer Mark Gannick and I got together, and we wrote out or helped write out outlines for 8 episodes of the show. Got it going. Started the writing process. Got that going. Started the recording process. We got to episode 4 for the season, and I don't remember how many more of the scripts 5 through 8 were finished, but they were definitely planned. They were being drawn. Environments were being worked on. Characters were being worked on. And at that time, Jessica gave me a call and said I can no longer record. The cancer's back and I'm dying.
Oh,
So you're dealing with that, your friend, you're somebody who
yeah.
just absolutely loves it, and then the whole back half of the season went into turmoil.
Right.
I believe Christian was probably on a line hunt. Christian
I
started
remember that.
a big, huge line hunt where we went into every take from every season previous to try to find stuff that we didn't even know what we were going to write toward, that we could use her dialogue from past seasons to put it in there. And so now we're retrofitting scripts and storylines based upon what we have and what limited amount of Mallory we can put in those shows. To that end, her character's involvement in the last 4 episodes got less and less as we try to keep her off screen, try to get things.
Right.
The beauty from a standpoint of getting things done that this episode, the season finale, largely I believe rests at the feet of Mark Gannick, our head writer at that time, who just did, I think, the best job under the most difficult circumstances
Yeah.
that he could have possibly done. He hid the ball on keeping Mallory off screen, and then used limited re-records or whatever, and then to say goodbye to her and have it be that emotional and have it land that well in the letter that he wrote into the final scene of the show, all planned by Mark. He was talking to Casey and I believe Casey and I were giving input, but I want to say that if Casey and I were giving input, that Mark was in the lead there.
Yeah.
They were mostly his ideas, and we were like, that's good. Okay, we can use that. It's not a perfect episode. I'm very aware that this episode is full of maybe too much story and other things, and there may be better episodes, but like for what had to be done to get this thing going was amazing. And then for it to land in the final scene and sitting on that image, there are like 3 or 4 scenes from the whole run of Archer that I think of. I think of Archer being told that this is his daughter and the baby holding up one finger. That was a moment for me that the show just like knocked me over.
Yeah.
Archer waking up in the hospital at the end of season 10 and Mallory telling him that this has always been a love story about me and you, and Archer going, ugh. That was a moment that landed for me. And this moment of Mallory, Jessica, sitting on the beach with her real life husband, Ron,
Yeah.
who was a character in the show who had died 2 years previous, to know that those 2 characters are sitting there watching the surf, and that's how they go out.
Yeah.
And that was, I don't know if we could have done a better job than that.
I agree. And
I
it
was
was
very, very
so
proud of the entire production for how that went out and how that went down and what we had to do to get there.
Yeah, and it was such a light touch too. Like it wasn't you guys. You didn't decide to like kill off the character. You didn't decide to. It was just so well
Casey more
done.
than anybody else. Casey was like, we can't do it. We can't bum him out. Casey was like very adamant, like she's going to live on forever. I think we talked to Adam a little bit about it, didn't we, Case?
Yeah, Adam had always said like one of the rules of Archer that when we have other writers and we'd give them rules, he would say, we never show Mallory getting hurt because that would be like watching her grandma get hurt. And
we liked Jessica too much too. We just couldn't see Jessica get hurt, right?
Yeah. Totally. Wow, that's so great. And that's so interesting to know because, of course, now that I think back, I'm like, yeah, that never happens. And it makes so much sense. Yeah, it was so well done. And I think that that's how Jessica would have wanted it too. Like,
you're going to fucking love that.
Yes.
You know that Ron was right by her side and they were sitting there having, she didn't want that fruity drink. She wants her one martini. That's what Jessica wanted. She always wanted one martini, not 2, 1, and that's it.
You know what? She told me one time we were sitting in traffic in New York, like forever. We were stuck in terrible traffic, and I was in a limo with her, and we were the only 2 people in the car because everybody else was in different cars. And she mentioned that on Wednesdays, her and Ron would have hamburgers and a martini. I was like, that is fucking great. Yeah. Or sometimes a steak. That was the beef day. On Wednesdays, they would have beef and a martini.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But
So fantastic.
we just made more sense to give her that fruity drink on the way out. We should have given her a martini, but
I remember.
And I'm assuming, I was just going to say, I'm assuming Mark had never met Jessica, right?
I don't believe he did.
Right. And so to have that in his hands, of course you guys were there, but
he told
wow.
me, I talked to him about it. He's like, I feel the weight of this. He felt the weight of writing.
Yeah. Yeah. What were you going to say, Casey?
Just that I remember we had given a rough cut of the episode to FX to look at, and like the next day I get a call from Christy Silvernail, who's a media relations person over there, and she was just like crying over the phone. She's like, you guys nailed it, this is amazing, and she was just so complimentary but could hardly get it out because she was so broken up about it. And she had to work directly with Jessica a lot for those Comic-Con appearances and stuff, so they got to know each other pretty well as well.
Yeah, it was just so lovely. I remember watching it the first time, and then I was actually kind of like putting off watching it again because I knew it was going to make me sad. But it was so beautifully done. It looks great. It was just perfect. Yeah, great work, guys. Great work. Do you want to talk through the episode?
Sure.
Great. One of the first.
Was I supposed to?
Wait, say that again.
Nothing.
One of the first things I wrote down is just Fabian's voice, because I'd forgotten how particular Fabian's voice was. And who played Fabian again?
Kayvon.
Oh, right.
What we do in the shadows.
Yeah.
Right. So does he sound like that all the time? No. Okay.
Kayvon's one of those guys that, so when you work in animation as long as I have, you run into a lot of these guys around town, but most people think they are this guy, but they're not. There are very few people that can really and truly throw about 20 different voices and mean it.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. I do know one very good actress who can't do any accents.
Is it me?
Kayvon's one of those guys who he's got legit 10 good, unrecognizably different voices inside of him. And he came up with that pretty much on his own. I think he worked on it a little bit with Casey, but he came in with a version of that, didn't he, Case?
Yeah, for sure.
It's so realistic. That's why I was like, is this just what this guy sounds like?
No, it's something he came up with, and he even added all these little speech impediments in there, and he would come up with little like one time he calls somebody a silly Billy. That's all him. Like, it was just such a weird insult, and it worked perfectly for that character.
It was so great.
Also, going back and watching the show, it's one of the episodes that has kind of a murderer's row of guest stars. We usually have one guest star. It has, first of all, our best guest star of all time, which is David Willis. Is basically main cast as Barry.
Yeah.
At some point, but you always know it's going to be at least a decent episode when Barry shows up. Mm-hmm. And so you not only have Barry and Kayvon, but then you have Stephen Tobolowsky, who ended up being great in later years. Casey and I called it therapy speak. Is what he did. And then Pamela Adlon, who was absolutely great, and you forget that she was with us for a couple seasons.
And she has such a distinctive voice. Like, as soon as I heard her voice, I saw her. She's got such a distinctive voice. Yeah.
She's an extremely, extremely funny person in real life. She's just has a wit about her that just crazy. And then I think one of the best all-time guest stars we've ever had was Eric Andre. He had a little small run here, and his dying sentence, the best dying sentence that we've ever had for a guest star.
Yeah, I actually wrote down how fun it is that like we got to see like some great bromances in this episode with like Krieger and Colt together, and then Barry and Archer, and it was just actually because there's other sweetness in this episode. It wasn't just the ending, that I thought, because, you don't think about the word sweet when you think about Archer.
There's a lot of sweet moments, but they're kind of, in my rewatch of, they're a little bit ruined by we went too fast. We were trying to cram a story in there.
Yeah.
This thing could have breathed for another minute, and I think it would have been a little bit more impactful. But we had, we wanted to say a lot,
Yeah.
and you only get 22 to 24 minutes to do that.
And
It was
so there
already
is
a
a little
two-parter
bit.
too.
Say
Oh,
what?
right.
It was already a two-parter, really.
It's a lot of story stuffed in here.
And so you guys would get like a little bit of wiggle room, like a window of how long exactly each episode needed to be. Is that
Yeah,
right?
1930 is the least. We were never there. 1930, and it would go up to 24 and change.
They wanted
2230.
originally it was 2130. Then they wanted 2115. Then the way people consumed media started to change, and
Right.
they stopped caring at how long the episodes were.
You quit getting the note.
So
Let's talk about time today.
yeah, we would be
2119. We turned into 2027 once.
yeah,
There was the 20. Remember the 2029?
but
God damn it.
the thing was for Matt had to run a business as well. So FX
Did
was
he?
more than willing to accept 25 and 27-minute episodes, but throughout a season, if you start delivering 2 minutes over on each episode, suddenly you've given away for free an entire episode that you didn't get paid for.
Yeah.
So internally, we had to be like, we have to shut this down because we don't have enough money to pay for another episode that's just a gratis animation,
Right. One of the things I wrote down, and I wonder, because I haven't watched the 12th season in a long time, everybody is asking where Mallory is, and everybody's trying to figure out where Mallory's at. Does that start in previous episodes, or is it just in this last episode?
1 through 4 were written and recorded, and they were fine.
Right.
There's just a little bit here and there through 5 through 8.
Yeah.
I haven't gone back and watched 5, 6, and 7, but I know those were all old lines of hers wherever she was. Those were
Right.
all stuff that Christian had to go dig out and find that worked. And so I think we just tried to keep her off screen as much as possible. Casey,
Yeah.
do you have any better?
Yeah, but I feel like the story behind like where's Mallory at was really just about in this two-parter.
Okay.
Like before, it was a little bit of hiding the ball, and then this one became part of the story.
Got it.
And that's how we also decided, like, well, Fabian's just going to buy the agency, and that's how we'll keep the story going.
Christian, what was that experience like going through and trying to find stuff? Like, what were you looking for? Did you know even what you were looking for?
We had like breath sounds, like yeses, no's, like anything we could group into categories, we would just dump into a file. But yeah, it was tedious, but also you're listening to Jessica, so
yeah,
it's also great.
Yeah, and was it like raw records, or was it edited stuff from other episodes?
Oh, we would just get the raw stuff and get anything off mic, anything we could get.
Wow.
That at least sounded quality. We would file away. And I remember we had a similar thing when Captain Murphy died on C-Lab. We were trying to figure out, could we? It was too early. I think we were too young of cartoon makers at the time to be able to handle that kind of like filing away of sound.
It's such an intimate thing too, I imagine, to like listen to recording sessions of somebody like being a person in between takes and weird shit that happens.
It's so weird doing these where I'm meeting the people who I've listened to all of their weird off-mic stories, but they don't know me. But I'm like, I remember that. How you say werewolf. How you say werewolf.
I love it. That's so fun. Matt, I thought you were going to take care of that.
I couldn't find the button.
Okay. I feel like I'm not a Mac person, but I feel like every person I know that is, which is everybody, doesn't know how to turn off their notifications. So that seems like a problem.
I just did it. I just wasn't doing it.
Okay. One of the lines I wrote down that is so funny that I laughed out loud that I completely forgot about was the guy that's moving boxes around, and he tells Archer to check his privilege, and he says, "I'll never do that, and you know it." It's so good. And that's only after knowing a character for 12 seasons that you can appreciate how great of a line that is.
Yeah, it was good.
So I will say, you mentioned Barry and Other Barry, and we had Dave on, and it was super fun recording with Dave. The Barry and Other Barry, to me, as an audience member, I was always like, I don't get it. This whole Barry and Other Barry thing, I'm just like, what? It just like it never resonated with me. I love Dave; he's got a great voice. But whenever it was Barry and Other Barry, I was just like, come on.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
You got demoted.
Oh, no. God damn it.
Anyway, so we watched the episode.
Okay, I take it back. Barry is my favorite character on the show.
Who's in charge here?
Oh boy.
Good prop work.
Do you have one of those for every character?
I have. There's only three. Only three exist. Lana, Amber, and Archer. Other ones don't exist.
Aw, that's nice. Oh, and people would love to know that for most of the years that we worked together on Archer, you called me Pamber.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still do.
Yeah, you still do.
I just behind your back mostly while I'm bitching.
You're still bitching about me? We haven't been working together for over a year. Come on.
Well, now I've got some new material.
Another line I wrote down that I loved that Pam says to Gillette is, "You running, squirrel meat?" And she also calls Cheryl neck bones later, which was always one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And it was very rare that we heard it, but neck bones was one of my favorite Pam lines.
It makes a lot of sense, and it is good. I was glad to hear it again.
Mm-hmm. Hey there, neck bones, one of my favorites. Let's see.
I have one more thing about this episode in general that I remembered that I thought was pretty interesting.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask Casey if he can remember when this started. I don't remember exactly when this started, but it was probably around season 5. We got to be well known enough as a show that if we wanted to get somebody, a celebrity, a specific celebrity on, we would kind of just call.
Yeah.
And go out. And it wouldn't work out all the time, but 50% of the time it was fine, right? And so we had a lot of really great guest stars on the show, tons and tons and tons and tons. And at some point, we started to ask them, would you like the character to look like you or not?
Mm-hmm.
Because you could see how, as an actor, yeah, I want people to know that was me, or maybe I don't. And I want to say that when we started asking those questions, that about 60% of the actors said, yeah, please make it like me. And, that's about somewhere in there, right, Case?
Yeah, I think
And then we would give them approval of their image. We'd draw it, and we'd send it to them. We'd go, how does this strike you? I remember specifically the first one that I really remember doing it for was Slater. Because I feel it was his suggestion. He was like, he was a fan of the show, and he had let our agents know. He called them and said, hey, can I get on that show? And so our agent called us, and I was like, yeah, of course you can. Would you like the character to be named Slater? And he was like, cool, yeah. And then he's like, can you make it look, he asked, if I remember right, can you make it look like me? I just really want to be on the show. And he meant it. He would quote lines to us. Like, it was a lot of times people, when you have a TV show that's on for a long time, a lot of people will tell you like, oh, I'm a huge fan of the show. It's so great. And then, that's it. And then, but Slater would just started quoting line after line after line. And then that's when somebody really is a fan. And so I remember we would send the drawings to him, and he was like, great. He approved it. He was like, oh, that looks great. Thank you. But that's what I remember that it started. And looking on this episode at Eric Andre and realizing, okay, that's not only is that his voice, that's his face.
Yeah.
And I don't remember when that process started. I was a big fan of it and a big proponent of it because I thought that it gave the show a little bit better publicity to that's Keegan-Michael Key. That's his face. That's his voice. That makes sense to me. Do you remember when this started, Casey?
You know what? I don't. And I think it was probably at your suggestion, too. It's just we're getting these celebrities. People need to know about this.
Yeah, and so cool for actors to have then like an Archerized version of themselves. It's just so cool. And I remember so many times, we would be at a Comic-Con or at an FX event and we'd meet somebody that was really rad, and then the next season they'd be on the show because you guys just wanted to work with them. Like it was that way with Allison Tolman, and I'm assuming that's how you guys met Kayvon too, was through an FX event. Yeah, so many great people.
Yeah, and the one person who doesn't get credit for looking like his character is poor Lucky Yates gets to be Gillette.
Yeah, we talked about that in Lucky's episode. One of the next lines that I wrote down.
Anything?
What's that?
Did Lucky bitch about anything?
He said he doesn't like you very much. No, Lucky had wonderful things to say. Yeah, he's great.
Not an original person. That's Lucky Yates.
I've got my pin.
In the best possible way. I mean that. He is an original human being.
We're gonna cut everything nice you say about Lucky out of this episode and just leave the mean stuff.
He's a
Cyril says, "I've got my pin, and it's mightier than a sword full of word poison." It's another great line. So how long had Mark been writing at this point?
Mike,
for a couple seasons?
Been with us for a couple of seasons as our Mark and Matt Roller. We felt extreme confidence in these two writers to pick up, and then also Mike Arnold. But Mike didn't have as much time, and he would only pick up one episode here.
Yeah,
and Asha too.
Asha as well. But I would say Mark became our go-to guy, especially for plotting. Mark is very good at action plotting, conspiracy plotting, trying to draw that story out. And it soon became apparent to us that without Adam sitting beside our side all the time, Casey and I needed somebody who was a stronger writer than Casey and I are. And so Mark really, it started to become apparent to us that as Mark hit episode after episode, but usually just one episode a season or maybe two, that we started to lean more heavily on him and just kind of asked him to come into the outline process and go ahead and kind of take up. And I think he gets a
co-EP credit.
Co-EP credit. There's no head writer credit on Archer, but he served in that capacity 100%.
Yeah.
He served in that capacity, but he's under the guise of co-EP.
I believe he started writing on Space 1999 or Archer 1999.
Oh wow! Okay,
that's season 10.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. There was another thing that I realized that I wanted to ask you guys about and see if you have any recollection of it. Is one of the things that Pam started to do. I don't even remember when, but I remember that it would be something you guys would go to in record sessions, direction-wise, would be to ask me to laugh into a line. And then it kind of became a thing that Pam kind of regularly did. And I wonder if you guys have any thoughts about that or remember asking for it.
Heat off of it. A lot of the lines in Archer are very angry and mean. Yeah. And on the page, if you read it as it just comes directly off the page, it'll just be a bunch of people punching each other in the stomach all the time.
Right.
And it really is very helpful to chuckle through a line, laugh up top, to find a place, and it just takes the heat off of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think Judy Greer can say anything, right? Like, you could give her any line, and just her voice, it's so charming coming out of that.
Funny.
That sound.
Oh my God, Judy Greer, one of my favorite people. Just 2 peas in a pervert pod was another really great line.
I'm working on one of those.
Yeah, I'm working on one of those. So great. Let's see. Oh, I also loved this visual gag that I had completely forgotten about, which is great to also remember that there's things in there that aren't always audio. And it was when Lana and Cyril get their cards and they pop up on the screen, and it's Foxy St. Clair and Beta Cuckington. Beta Cuckington is so fucking funny.
My guess is that was not Gannick, but Casey and the art.
I think it was scripted. I think that was in Gannick's script, I believe.
I remember you guys would always like there were the art department always tried to put in jokes, and you guys were always trying to keep them down. Like you can't, like everything can't be a joke.
Well, also, it wasn't to really stifle creativity, but like some people would be trying to put their own like characters they made up into the background or something, and I'm like, if you do that, FX owns that property now, so stop.
Yeah. One of the things that was so fun that we got to do every season was watch an episode of Archer with an audience at Comic-Con. And it's so weird. It's such a difference because, like, there's so many jokes in Archer that when you're with a live audience, so many things get missed because of the laughter that's happening, which was just always so interesting to see, like, what people were responding to in a crowd full of people watching the episode.
Also, our pacing is extremely fast. And so any laugh negates things for pacing too.
I remember one season we're watching the episode on the sidelines as the crowd at Comic-Con watched it, and H. John turns to me and he goes, "Huh, this show's pretty good."
He's such a jackass. One of my favorite moments, we talked about this earlier, about like the sweetness between Barry and Archer that kind of starts to seep out. And it was, what do you think would happen? And then Archer says, Barry and I would be friends again. It's just like, how sweet. What a jackass.
I also loved how Archer comes and puts his hand on Lana and we don't say anything.
Yeah, it's so sweet. I totally agree with that.
Did we say anything? Did we talk anything? We just thought it was better to not say anything. And we talked about like, oh, Archer wouldn't know what had happened to Lana and why she's crying. And it was like, it doesn't matter. The audience knows. We just wanted to sit and not say anything for a second. We thought it was better than anything Archer could say.
Yeah, and it's just a great example of how Archer is not traditionally an animated show. Like the things that are dealt with are things that would happen in a live action show. So it's just like, those kinds of moments are exactly that, not what you would generally see in an animated show.
Yeah.
I can also say that from season 10 until season 14, we had no idea year after year if we were getting renewed. So we were like, well, let's put all the pathos in now because we don't know.
Totally. I also want to point out how good, obviously the show continues to start looking better season over season as things advance, but when they're on the roof and the whole building is on fire, it just looks so fucking incredible.
The artwork for that wrecked helicopter was just so sweet, man.
Yeah, agreed. I drew it all. I started drawing more and more in later seasons. I was like, I'm trying to just punch it up,
Matt, can you draw? Is that a truth?
I cannot.
You cannot draw.
I cannot.
I thought it was great that Pam kept a secret for once in the show's history.
Right.
Like the one when it really counts, Pam kept the secret.
Wow, I didn't even totally register that, but it's so true. That's so true. How lovely. One of the things in the letter to Archer that's so sweet and funny, there's jokes in there too, is all my lovesick paramours. And Archer's just like, gross. It was just so lovely. We've talked about the ending and how wonderful it is, and how well done it was. But it was such a great episode to rewatch.
I remember one debate that we had in the back for a second was, do we let Cheryl interrupt with that joke or not? Because we want to go straight. And I think we had a small debate about it. We decided to keep it because we wanted to make sure that we weren't just being sad.
Yeah. Because Jessica was so fucking funny. And not just in this show, but in her entire career and lifetime. So that's exactly how I think she would have wanted it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No matter what, I think what she would have wanted, and I had this in my head no matter what, was she was a worker. She's from a generation where it was like, if you're not working, you're dying. Mm-hmm. And no matter what, she would have wanted the show to go on without her because she believes in business. And like all the time, she's like, make your money. Let's go. Let's show up on time. Let's be prepared. Let's do our best job, but let's keep doing the job.
Yeah.
She's always, always about the job and the words on the page, as she always would say. And her number one goal for this would be just to make sure that we had another season because she didn't want the show to end with her a positive in that.
Yeah.
Matt organized the entire cast to have one last call with Jessica. And so we were able to talk to her very briefly and tell her how much we appreciate it.
She didn't know it was coming.
Yeah.
I won't say the tenor of the phone call, but I will say the final thing that she said was just for Jessica. Do you remember what she said?
I think so.
Everybody was being very kind to her. It was very, very, very emotional. And after a pause, and I might get it wrong, but after a pause, she's like, I have to go. If this phone call doesn't kill me, I don't know what. She didn't want the sentimentality.
Yeah.
You remember what the exact phrase was?
No.
I don't recall either, but
it was, you guys are being too nice. I have to go because this niceness is killing me.
That was such a special thing, like that you usually don't get, especially with people that you work with. And it just is a testament to how much we all loved each other, which is also, I think, very rare. I don't know. I've never been on another television show, and I never will be. But for this one, it was very special. Okay, so Matt, I just want to let you know that going into trivia, you have 47 points.
Okay. Respectable.
Pretty good. Pretty
There's
good.
been some higher numbers going in. But
Yeah.
That's not
Why
bad.
do I have 47?
I don't. I can't explain it to you.
Exactly.
It's just what it is.
Makes sense.
So these are not Archer trivia questions, but trivia questions inspired by the episode. So, first question.
Yeah, Schenker starlight weight theory. I don't know, whatever it was.
I almost put that in, but I didn't. But it is related to Colt. Eric Andre plays a character named Colt. Colt is also a name for a horse. What makes a horse qualify to be called a colt?
Oh.
Is Colt just a young male?
Yes. Yes, I'm going to accept that. How young, do you know?
I believe under a year.
It's under 4 years.
Oh.
Bonus question. What's a female under 4 years old called?
Can I give my own bonus question? Colt McCoy was the quarterback of the Texas Longhorns when I was there. Very important to me. What was your question? All I can think about is Colt McCoy.
A colt is a male horse under 4 years of age. What is a female horse under 4 years of age called?
I'm going to say Pink Pony.
It's a filly.
A filly.
A filly.
A pink pony, for those of you that don't know, is a pretty good strip club here in Atlanta.
It's
What?
definitely not in L.A. It does not exist in L.A.
It does it? It's in Atlanta, yeah. One of the things about the Pink Pony, I don't know if it's still like this, but I love strip clubs, and so I've been to every strip club in Atlanta. And there was a time that the Pink Pony's liquor license was they were having trouble with their liquor license. So every time you would order a drink, you would get 2 packages of 6 sandwich crackers. And so there was fucking crackers everywhere, just smashed into the ground, all over the bar, just crackers
You can just
everywhere.
say white people, Amber. Come on.
Also, do you remember driving up 85? There used to be a billboard for the Pink Pony, and it just says, "It's raining panties," and there was just panties.
Oh, man. Atlanta's the best.
So in this, Archer makes a weapon out of a staple gun to try to stop Barry. In what year was the first patent for the stapler approved?
1957.
Oh, 1866.
1957? People weren't stapling stuff before the 50s?
Just you and your stomach, okay?
There's also apparently some Louis Louis the 15th had a stapler in 18th century France as well. So.
Oh, very interesting.
Leonardo da Vinci.
Yes. In this whole season of Archer, he had his tactile cane. And in this final episode of the season, he realizes he doesn't need it anymore. And we kind of related that when we talked about this season to Dumbo and his feather. And then Dumbo realizing he didn't need the feather to fly.
Me or you? You kept comparing it to Dumbo and his feather.
Yeah, I did. I had two things I tried to push through. This season, I kept pushing for two things. One, the Dumbo feather thing. And then two, once Sandra breaks up Lana's marriage, she was going to reveal this whole thing about how Lana slept with her boyfriend in college.
I forgot about that. It was just payback or something.
Yeah, I had this whole thing.
And Lana was like, I don't even remember you. And like, I remember that.
But what date was Dumbo released?
1957.
That sounds right.
October 23rd, 1941.
Oh, before the stapler was invented. Okay.
And final question. Matt, do you have anything you'd like to promote?
No.
Great answer.
Dave's answer was, if you would have just asked me 6 years ago.
And then you can't promote pitches.
Matt Thompson, your final score for this episode is 39.
Oh,
39. You lost points.
Oh, no.
Wow. Next time?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Matt. I hope you had a good time. Sorry we had to end on a low note of you losing all those points.
Yup. I didn't get to say that. That was Aisha's line in the end when she sees her husband's been sleeping around. Yup. I was loving when Aisha did that. So that's how I'll sign it out.
Thanks, Matt. I miss you.
Miss you too.
This has been Rephrasing, an Archer Rewatch podcast. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at rephrasingpod. Email us questions at rephrasingpod@gmail.com. Please, no pictures of your penis. That's just inviting pictures of their penis, isn't it? Rephrasing is produced by Amber Nash, Casey Willis, and Christian Danley. Our theme song is by Matt Hobbs. I'd like to say a special thank you to Raymond Carr, Jasmine Nash, and Jonathan Strickland. And don't forget, FX's Archer is now streaming on Hulu.